Hi, I'm Christan with Edwards Instrument Company, and today I'm joined by Katie Thigpen, who's a musician, obviously, which is why we're here, in a DC military band. And so today we're going to talk about career paths and how you got where you got.
Yes. So I'm Katie. Hi. I'm born and raised in Mount Pleasant, South Carolina. I went to Wando High School, went to University of South Carolina. Went to Wando High School. Yep, in Mount Pleasant. And I loved band. I thought I wanted to be a band director. I loved teaching, working with kids. So I did music education at University of South Carolina, and I studied with Brad Edwards.
Yeah.
And I also did like a performance certificate. You know, so you do a little bit of performance with the music ed. And
that's after your undergrad?
That was my undergrad.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that was my undergrad, was music ed degree with a performance certificate.
Gotcha.
So I had to do recitals and stuff alongside student teaching. And then when I applied for...
So at this point, did you know you wanted to be a performer, or you thought you were going to be education?
I thought I was education 100%. Yeah, education 100%. So I was applying for teaching jobs, but also graduate schools, because Dr. Edwards had been very encouraging with my playing. So I thought, okay, I'll apply for grad school. If I get in somewhere with like decent scholarship, I'll go. I'll take that route. And I did. So I got into CCM, Cincinnati Conservatory, and I got a good scholarship. So I was like, oh, I have to go there.
Yeah.
I have to take this opportunity. And at that time, I thought, oh, I'll just go to graduate school, get my master's in performance, and then come back and teach.
Yeah.
Was my mindset. And I went to CCM. I learned a lot. Playing in orchestra, playing all the different ensembles. I learned a lot. I grew a lot as a player, and masters goes by really fast.
Yeah.
And so at the end of 2 years, I had a moment of, what am I going to do? And I felt like I still wanted to learn more and get better and grow, because I didn't think I was where I wanted to be or needed to be. So I ended up, I got offered an assistantship. I was the wind librarian, actually, and I stayed on and did my doctorate.
At CCM?
At CCM,
okay.
Yep. And that assistantship paid for me to stay in school, essentially. And I loved school, and I thought, great, I'm going to have more time to practice and take lessons and learn about gigging and all of these things. So after I did my coursework for my DMA, I actually moved. That's when I moved to the DC area. So long story a little bit, but I'll say it quick. I was dating someone who was moving to the DC area to study at Maryland with Craig Mulcahy. So I was like, okay, well, I'm just going to move there because done with my coursework. That would be a good place to study with people, get experience.
There's a lot of players in Washington, DC. Yeah.
And so I had a little unrealistic expectation. I got a full-time desk job, like an arts administration type job. And I was trying to finish my DMA, projects, papers, exams, all of that, orals. Trying to finish my DMA, work a full-time desk job, and take lessons, and take auditions, all at the same time, which is a lot. So I did that for almost 2 years, that full-time job, and trying to juggle all of these things, plus taking auditions, and I studied a lot with Craig. And I was going to New York and taking lessons from Per Brevig too. And so after those year and a half...
Manhattan School of Music, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
And after, actually, I quit my full-time job at the beginning of the summer to line up with me going out to Aspen to also study with Per there. And then I freelanced after that for about 5 years when I had about 38 students that I taught.
Wow.
And I was also gigging all around DC, subbing in with different orchestras.
Because you're trying to make a living at this time.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Yes, to support myself. And the DC area is not known to be essentially very affordable.
Yeah.
And so as a freelance musician, you have to really, really work a lot. I was working 6 days, always 6 days a week, sometimes 7 days a week, depending on what I was doing that week. And I did that for about 5 years. I was also taking auditions during that time and studying with Craig Mulcahy very regularly. And also I would go to New York and see Per Brevig occasionally too.
And Craig's the principal of National Symphony Orchestra.
Yeah, at the Kennedy Center, yes. And so those two teachers really helped me a lot. And then I got to, where I was taking all these auditions, and I got my job with the Army Band.
And we call that the audition circuit.
Yes.
And how many auditions did you take before you got a job?
I took a lot. I took 31, I believe.
31 auditions.
And the last 2 I took, so actually I'm also second trombone of the Roanoke Symphony. That was my second to last audition I took. I got that, and then I auditioned for the Army Band. I actually auditioned for the Army Band 5 times. And that last time is when I got the job I have now.
So you really have to have thick skin on the audition circuit, because you have to be okay, and then you try and get feedback if you can, and then you improve upon those things every time, and then sooner or later you start advancing, if I'm correct, right?
Yes.
And then as you, then you evaluate what you did correctly, what you can improve upon every time.
Yes.
And it's the same thing as practicing. You're always, you record yourself, listen. What's the biggest advice you could give somebody that's on the audition circuit?
Oh man, to be patient and very persistent, and also practicing. Like, you have to, this is going to sound silly and obvious, but you really have to practice what your weakest skills are at playing, right? Like for me, it was my high range and articulation, clarity and articulation a lot. And so I had to like really hunker down, even though it's not fun to practice the things that you're not good at.
Yeah.
But I had to make myself more consistent. And also with auditions, I feel like I probably started taking them too young. I don't know if, too early maybe.
Yeah.
But I learned a lot in doing that. And also I learned as I would start to advance, I would get very nervous.
Yeah.
Because I'd think, oh my gosh, I advanced. I'm getting close to maybe having a job. And then I would get very shaky. And so I had to work through the nerve part and figuring out how I can still play, consistently at a high level through an entire audition.
Yeah.
So then in the final round, I'm not like so excited that I can't play Sanson smoothly. So it's a lot of learning and just having patience with yourself and persistence, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, and I hear this a lot with musicians who have got the job or a job, and it's like they'll talk more about the process of getting there. It's a lot of knocking on doors until one opens up, and you can then you get to that next round, and you get to the next round, and then handling that pressure of advancing and doing those things. So now you've been in the military band for
6.5 years.
6.5 years. And so now we were just talking about this. How did you the balancing of life? If you were listening to Katie, she had a tremendous schedule, balancing all the plates, teaching, taking lessons, doing all that you were doing. How did you scale that back to be able to have a balanced life? And I struggle with this too, saying no.
Yes.
Not saying, as a freelance musician, when the phone rings, you take it.
Yes.
You're always on. You're always on. And so learning to be a little more strategic in your career and in your to have a balanced life. How did you learn to say no? I'm just curious myself.
Well, I had to live, so I had to go to basic training, so I didn't play for a while. I came back to this new full-time job, and I was already living in that area, right, which is not very common. So I already had sort of an established student base, and I had told my students, hey, I'm going to be gone for a few months, but I'm going to come back. I'm still going to teach. So in the beginning, I was doing my military band job and also trying to teach at the same time.
38 students.
Which was, I couldn't. It was nearly impossible because of my work schedule. The schedules just didn't line up. So it took me a few months of trying, because I'm pretty hard-headed. I'm like, I can do it. But I had to realize, okay, I couldn't do it. It wasn't humanly possible to be in all these places at once. But also I didn't have to. It took me a really long time to realize, hey, I have a job now with a good salary. Like, I don't have to be kind of killing myself to do all of this work. And we were talking, like you said, all these, church gigs would come in, or come play with this brass quintet, and I kind of had to, for probably a year or two with my job, I was saying, oh yes, and then I'd be like, wait, I don't have to do this. After freelancing for a while, I was not used to the luxury of having free time and being able to do other things or explore, having other hobbies and stuff like that. So it took me a long time to learn, no, I don't have to take these gigs, every single job.
You can do artistic
Yes, things I want to do.
Absolutely.
I can say, I'm fortunate that I
Yeah.
don't have to say yes. I can do things I really want to do. Oh yeah, I really want to do this.
If you want to do solos, you can work on your solos in your own time.
Yes.
That more advance you as a musician or an artist, and not just having to do every piece
All
of work.
the jobs that come in.
And yes, we're here to talk about instruments, and we'll get to that. But a lot of times, people don't talk about these things with
Yes.
musicians, and nobody tells you that at some point you're going to have more work than you can handle.
Yes.
And you have to pick and choose and do what's right for you.
Yeah, and I think it's important to have a balance. Because, oh my gosh, you work, you start to get burned out. Why
Yeah.
am I doing this? Do I even
Yeah.
like doing this? And then it can affect your teaching and your playing and all these different things.
So how has your playing changed over the years, from working through the audition circuit and everything? And then you played, this is your first time here at Edwards.
Yes.
Which is
Yay.
pretty amazing, because you've played in Edwards for how long now?
Since about 2008.
Yeah.
So 15 years.
Yeah,
about.
and so, and you were on a 396A before.
Yes.
And that had worked, obviously. And so we wanted to keep all the good that was in your sound and in your performing, and then just do small adjustments and small improvements.
Yes.
And so can you talk about the fitting process today and what you learned?
Yes, so yeah, I'd never been here before, which I was really excited to come. Because when I got my...
Through a blizzard, by the way.
Yeah, through a blizzard, which was really beautiful outside. But when I got my first horn, my first Edwards, I got it from what was then the Eastern Trombone Workshop. I had gotten it then, and I loved it, and I just was so excited to have an Edwards. So,
Yeah.
and I've played on it for so long, but having the opportunity to come here, to me, it's just so fun to try different things and see how they sound different, they feel different. It's amazing to me the smallest adjustments you make.
Yeah.
Run and grab a different, lead pipe or tuning slide, and then it's so different. I feel like I learn a lot just trying different things, because I don't realize how big of a difference the different pieces of equipment makes.
Yeah.
Because we talked about that. I feel like I know embarrassingly little about equipment, because I'm like, ooh, trombone, I just want to, ooh,
Yeah.
it sounds great, ooh, this is fun. And I've never really gotten into the details of that. And so working with you, who knows everything, and is just like a wizard with it, is really fun and a good learning experience for me.
Well, and for those out there that want to know what we did, Katie ended up on a 396, but there were some modifications that I did. When Katie was playing a few scale things, I pinpointed a couple regions, low and in the upper register, that weren't as consistent, and so I really focused in on those, and it was just a few basic things that helped make those more consistent.
Yes, and feel a lot easier for me.
Right, and so we needed just a slight bit more compression that I was able to address with the lead pipe area, that then enabled, like doing a C scale, it was just rock solid from low to high.
Oh, yeah.
And even the high D now, there's just less effort. And so then the core of sound, the resonance stays the same. And then to a listener's perspective, it sounds more natural or easy or those things. But definitely feeling less workload on the face,
Yes.
you can then resonate more easily.
Oh yeah, the notes just kind of pop out.
Yeah.
I don't have to work as hard, which is nice.
Right, and so, and occasionally, I actually took your instrument and I played on it because I wanted to experience what she feels. And then through the process, every now and then we'd take a break and I'd play just to see where we were at, just because
Yes.
I'm a curious individual. and I think, if you have a person that you can trust, that you can work with, you're going to be able to probably further your career musically or sonically, but if you're really paying attention to the 1% and 2%. I mean, because you can make a difference that's 20%, but then you won't really realize where that's going to be for your face until
Right.
weeks or months down the road. So be cautious in your changes, and a lot of times smaller will give you more gains. But I'm really happy that you could finally make it up here.
Yay!
And thanks for sitting down and sharing your knowledge on how you've gotten where you're at in your career.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Yay! Thank you. So much fun.